Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet, which I'm calling Floral Diagonal Pearls. And I just posted this one previously, and this one is just called Rustic Diagonal Pearls. It's the exact same pattern, except for I have changed the embellishments. I do not do an embellishment down the middle like I did on this one, and I have changed the order. I used crystals here, and I've used pearls here, and then I've interspersed some clear crystals through it to make it a lighter and airier look. So it's the exact same pattern. It's just different beads and a little bit different embellishment. I'm going to show you what this looks like on my wrist, and then we will look at the material list. So let me see if I can get this on. This toggle is kind of a tough one to deal with. They've made the straight part of the toggle a little bit too long, but that's what that looks like on. Get it a little closer so you can see it. And that's the clasping. Very pretty. Nice, pretty look. This one looks very delicate, whereas this one is much more rustic looking, maybe southwestern, and like I said, it's the same pattern. So let's go ahead and look at what it takes to make this bracelet today. If you like this one, look at the previous video I posted and you can follow this tutorial. Let's go ahead and look at the material list. Okay, for this project today, we will be using 4mm bicone crystals, and this is a Swarovski. It is an AB, either that or it's Moonlight. I can't remember which one it was, but it's a clear with a nice AB finish. And then we'll be using 2 colors of 4mm round glass pearls. I'm using a lavender and a butter color. And then we will be using 11-0, 8-0, and 15-0 seed beads. These are all Toho. This is Starlight. It's the galvanized permanent finish golden tone. And then I'm using the permanent finish galvanized aluminum for the silver tone in both 11-0 and in 15-0, and of course they're Tohos. Then I will be using a toggle clasp. I may change my mind on my toggle. This is my first selection, but I have a couple others I may check out. But anyway, regardless, you'll need a toggle clasp. Then I'm going to be using 10-pound nanofill. My beads are light, so I'm going to use a crystal tone, and I'm going to use a little bit heavier line just to hold them nicer. However, if you are using fire line, you'll want to use a lighter one, because as you pass through your crystals, as many times as we pass through it on this particular pattern, your crystals will become foggy with a really thick line. So if you use like an 8-pound fire line, you're probably going to have your crystals look a little foggy unless you're using a dark crystal. If you're using a darker crystal or a crystal with a lot of color, red or anything with more color, you're not going to see it as badly. So I will be using 10-pound nanofill and probably a size 12 beading needle just to pass through my 15-0s better. You can use a size 10 if you prefer. Let's go ahead and get started on this project. Okay, to start this project, thread onto your needle a nice long length of thread, a comfortable length to work with. I say that because you're going to need to extend your fire line several times during this project. So you can start with about a wingspan or a yard, and then you can extend as you go along. I do not like using really long lengths. It just gets too cumbersome for me. So keep that in mind, thread your needle, and let's get started. We're going to start by picking up 4 of the color of bead, the 4mm round pearls that you want your flowers to be in. So I want my flowers to be in lavender. So I'm going to pick up my lavender, and then I'm going to bring them to the end of my thread here. Leave yourself a 12 to 14 inch tail, maybe even a little longer, unless you do not want to Unless you would like to extend your fire line, then you can leave a little less of a length. I'm going to leave just a few, like 4 or 5 inches here, and I will extend when I get to that point. So now I am just going to go back through the first pearl that I put onto my thread. I'm going to hold on to that pearl and my tail and just pull my working thread through until I make one little unit like this. Now I'm going to sew back through this entire unit and get back to the point to where my tail and my working thread meet. So I'm just going to sew through these 3 beads here, and now I am back where my tail and my working thread meet. I'm going to pull my thread tight, and I'm going to tie a knot with my tail and my working thread just to ensure that this first unit stays together as I work through it. Make sure your knot goes down between the beads. I'm going to tie another tiny knot just to make sure. Pull your thread really tight. Come here, you. And then this is what you should have. And go into the pearl you're next to. So the top pearl here, we're going to go into it. And this is what you should have. Now we're going to go down into this bead here on the side, and we're going to put a little embellishment on top of this unit. So we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. And we're going to cross over the top of our unit. So we're coming out of this side of this bead, we're going to find the opposite bead, and we're going to go into the opposite side from which we're coming out of this bead. So we're going to go straight over into this one. Avoid your tail and just pull these beads down. And tighten it over the top as much as you can. And now we're coming out of this bead right here. We're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead, and we're just going to go into the 8-0 seed bead again. And it's at an angle, and the first unit is a little difficult to do just because it's hard to hold on to. Just go into that 8-0 like so. And then I put my thumb on top of those beads and just pull my thread through so I can get some good tension on it. And then I'll just pick up another 15-0 seed bead. Let's get just a little closer. 15-0 seed bead, and we'll go into the opposite side of the pearl we started in, right here. Just hold on to your unit, pull that bead down, give it a nice little tug. If you need to, push the bead up on top of the unit so it stays there nicely. And that's what you should have. Now we're going to make our next unit. On this first row, our pattern will be just a little bit different. Not much, but a little bit, and I will show you what I mean by that. But we want to make our diagonal pearl part now, so we're going to pick up 2 white beads and a crystal. The crystal will be on the border, so every time you're doing a border or outside bead, it'll be a crystal, and you'll use one for a center bead also. But this bead here will end up on the outside. So I'm using this one as my 4th bead, so I only need to pick up 3 beads, and then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the bead I'm coming out of and pull this down. And now I have to sew through this entire unit. You could advance without doing that, but I feel like it's just not enough stability. Beads look sloppy if you do that, and your bracelet will break easier, especially having crystal in it. So I would just go through and sew through it again, even though you don't want to. I'm sewing through the entire unit until I get to the bead I'm connected to, which is my lavender bead here. And then I need to sew halfway through again to get to this bead. So I'm going to go through this one, and then up through this one. Now, like I said before, all of your border beads are going to be crystal, except for in this first row. That's what makes this first row a little different. This will be the outside bead we pick up first, but we're going to pick up a pearl just on this first row here, and then our last row we'll also do that. So pick up a pearl, and then the outside bead for the third row will be a crystal. So you'll pick up a crystal, and then you will pick up a lavender bead so we can start our next flower on the next row. So this is what you will have: pearl, crystal, lavender pearl. Go up through your bead on the opposite side. And now we will sew back through this entire unit. I'm just going to turn it over just so it's more available to my right hand here, and then I'll turn it back over. Sew through the entire unit until you get to your connecting bead here. And this time we have to sew all the way down to the bottom bead in the unit, because we're going to start our next row from this bead here. So we're going to sew all the way back to here. So we're going to go 3/4 of the way around instead of halfway around this time. So go into the top bead, the crystal, and then the bottom bead right here. Now, when you're starting a new row and you're coming out of a lavender bead going towards the bottom of your unit, you will make a flower. So you will need all of your beads to be in the flower color. So I'm going to pick up 3 lavender beads because I have 1 already on my unit. So I will pick up 3, and I will go through the lavender bead here. Then I will sew around the entire unit until I come back to this bead, and then I'll just sew into this one so I can do my embellishment. So let's go all the way around this entire unit. Putting your thumb and your finger over it to give a nice tug after each thread through is going to help you get really good tension, because this needs good tension or it's just going to be a mess. And you can see the thread through anyway on this particular stitch. That's why in my last bracelet I did more embellishments, which I'm not going to do in this one. So you want to make sure your thread is very neat and tight between each bead. Now we're going to go into this side bead here. Now we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead and an 8-0 seed bead and a 15-0 seed bead. And we're going to cross over to the opposite side of the opposite bead. So we're coming out here, we're going to go in here on this bead. So we're going to go here and pull the embellishment over the top of the bead. This will make the center of your flower. Pick up a 15-0. Go into the 8-0, which is at an angle, but you'll straighten it out as you do this. Whoops, caught my pinky in there. Pull tight, pick up a 15-0, and then go into the opposite side of the bead you started in. Put your thumb over it, give it a tug, make sure this embellishment is tight, because if it isn't tight at this point, it'll be loose always. So you want to make sure it's nice and tight. Now, we need to make our next unit. So when you're coming out of your full flower on the right side of your bracelet, you will pick up a crystal, because that will break up the lines of the diagonal pearls. So you need to pick up a crystal first, coming out of this petal on a full flower on the right side. And then you will pick up 1 pearl. So on the first unit you have to have 3 pearls, and now we have 2 we're working through. So all we have to have is 2, a crystal and a white pearl. Then we come to the outside of the middle pearl here and come through it. And this will make our center unit. And you see the crystal breaks up the pattern so that you have a nice diagonal of pearls in the middle. Then you're going to sew through the entire unit. So all the way around until you get back to the lavender bead in the flower. And then sew halfway through again. So you're going to go through these two beads until you get to this one. So I guess it's actually 3/4 of the way through. Well, no, because that's a full stroke there, so it's halfway. I was right. Now we're going to go halfway through again. So we've gone completely through. Now we're going to go halfway through the unit. Exit this bead here. Now we're going to connect our next unit to this bead. So we have to come up into this bead in the flower here. What we need for our next unit is a border bead, which is always crystal. So we're coming out towards the outside. We need a crystal bead, and then we will need another flower bead so that we can start our next row with a flower. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up a crystal and a lavender bead, like so. And you'll go through this middle pearl here. These are the two beads we're sharing. So we'll go into here and pull. And then sew all the way through the entire unit. So we need to connect to this bead here. Go into it. And then sew through the crystal. Sew through the lavender bead. And then back through the pearl. Now we've gone all the way around, and we need to sew 3/4 of the way around so we can get to our bottom bead to start our next row. So I'm going to sew through this pearl here, this crystal here, and remember to give a nice tug because you're going to see that thread in the middle and you want it to be part of the pattern basically. You want it to look nice and neat. And then go into the bottom pearl. Now we're coming out of a purple bead, starting a new row. So when you're starting a new row and you're coming out of a purple bead, you know you need to make a flower. So you know you need to pick up 3 lavender beads. So pick up 3 lavender and go into the opposite side of the lavender bead you're coming out of. Now sew through the entire unit. Okay, I'm all the way around. Now I just need to sew into this inside bead and put my embellishment on. You'll always embellish from the inside bead because that way you'll end up right where you need to be to do your next unit. So pick up a 15-0 seed bead, an 8-0 seed bead, and a 15-0 seed bead. You're coming out of this bead here, you're going to go to the opposite bead in the opposite side. So I'm just turning my piece so I can get to it better. Pull it down, put your thumb on it, give it a nice tug, and then pick up a 15-0 seed bead. Turn your 8-0, go into it, put your thumb on top of it, pull your 15-0 down. Oops, I just boggled mine all up. There we go. Let me fix that. I messed it all up. You got to keep tension on top of those beads if you're going to pull like that, and I didn't. Now, pick up a 15-0 and go into the opposite side of the pearl you started in for your embellishment. Give a nice tug, and we're ready to start our center unit. now we need to pick up a pearl and another pearl. So when you're coming out on the left side and you're coming out of your petal bead here, you need to make your center unit. You're going to hook into this one. You will pick up 2 of your diagonal pearl color. So we're going to go into the crystal, and now we have 2 diagonal pearls. Now the pattern is going to become very evident from this point on. Once you have like 3-4 rows, you can really see it, and you can just reference the last few rows to know what you need to put on. So now we're going to go into the lavender pearl because I've connected to this crystal here, and I'm still not connected to the flower. So I'm going to go into this flower pearl right here and pull tightly. And now I'm going to sew around the entire unit until I get back to my petal bead and my flower. Now I need to sew up to this bead here. So I'm going to come into this pearl right here. It'll always be this side bead when you're working your way over. Sorry guys, a little clumsy today. Let me get back so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I'm coming out of this pearl now after sewing and securing my entire unit. Now I need to go up into this bead so that I can make my next unit. So I will come through this bead here. Okay, so now we're coming out of this purple bead right here, and we need to make our border, which is always going to be crystal. So we're going to pick up crystal, and then we know that we need to pick up a purple bead, so we'll have our flower in our next row because each one's offset. So you'll have pearls and then you'll have your flower. So crystal, purple bead, go into the middle pearl, and then into the petal bead on the flower above, and then sew through one more time. Make sure that you are completely connected, so all the way around till you get to your petal bead. And then we're going to sew down into this bead here so we can start our next row. And because we are coming out of a purple bead, starting a new row, we will make a flower. So pick up 3 and then go into the bead you're coming out of. Sew around the entire unit. And then sew into the inside bead. So I'm going to come up through here. And then I'm going to put my embellishment on top of the bead. I'm coming out of my inside bead. Make sure that's 15-0. And then pick up a 15-0, an 8-0, and a 15-0. Cross over into the opposite bead in the opposite side from which you're coming out of the bead you're coming out of, and pull down. Then give a nice little tug, and then pick up a 15-0. Turn your center bead so that you can get through it. Put your finger on top of it and pull that 15-0 up on top. And then pick up a 15-0 seed bead and go into the opposite side of the bead you started in, like so. Push that 15-0 up on top give a nice tug so that everything is nice and pretty, like so. And here is where, when we're coming out of the flower, on the right hand side, this is where we're coming out of the petal bead towards the bottom. This is where we pick up a crystal. This will be our one center crystal bead here, and then we will pick up a pearl, a white pearl, like so. Then we have to connect to this pearl here. So you're coming out here, you're going to connect into the center. And now you have your beads on, but you're not connected to your flower from this pearl to here. So connect those two. And then sew all the way back around till you get into the pearl here. So sew all the way back around, giving a tug after each thread through, making sure that your thread in the center is nice and neat. Now I'm all the way around, so I'm going to sew to this bead so I can make my last unit on this row. So I'm going to work over here, up through here. When you're making your last unit on your row, whether you're working this way or that way, you will pick up a border bead and a petal bead for your next row flower. So we will pick up a crystal, which is our border, and then we will pick up a lavender for our flower on our next row. So go through the middle bead here to connect your two new beads. Then you will sew through the entire thing. So sew all the way till you get back to this pearl. Go through the center pearl. And then we need to sew all the way down to the bottom. So we'll sew 3/4 of the way around. So we can start our next flower. Now you know, because you're coming out of a purple bead or your flower color bead and you're going to start a new row, you know you make a full flower. So it's 3 more beads of the same color. You will always know whether on this side or that side. If you're coming out and you're making a new row, then you're coming out of a flower bead, you will always make a flower first. Then you can just follow your patterning. We'll do one more row here, and then it should be pretty obvious to be able to follow the pattern without any guidance. So let's pick up 3 purple pearls, go into the opposite side of the one we're coming out of, and sew through the entire unit. On the flower beads, you always want to come to the inside bead after you've secured, and then begin your embellishment. 15-0, 15-0, 8-0, 15-0. You're coming out here, you're going to go into the opposite bead and go into the opposite side of it. Pull these beads down. Give a nice little tug. Pick up a 15-0. Go into your 8-0. Put your thumb on top of it. Guide your thread through. Tug. Pick up a 15-0. And go into the opposite side of the bead you started your embellishment in. Give a nice tug. Make sure your embellishment is tight. And now we need to make our next row. We're coming out of the petal bead on the left hand side, so we know that we need to pick up 2 white pearls to make the diagonal. So pick up 2 white pearls, connect into the crystal that divides from the white pearls above, and then connect to your flower. Sew all the way around until you come back to the flower bead. This unit is finished, so now we have to sew over to where we can start our next unit. We're going to go into this bead and then into this bead. Now we're finishing the row on the right hand side, so when we finish on the right hand side, what we have to do is pick up a border bead, and then we have to pick up our flower bead. Go into the pearl here, sew all the way around until you get back to that middle pearl. And you will notice as you work through, whichever side you're on, whether you're starting or finishing a row, it has a particular pattern that you will begin to establish and recognize. And then as you work through this from this point on, it's pretty darn obvious. You'll just pick it up and just roll with it. So now I have to sew all the way down to this one here and make my flower. So fly away. Okay, so we're just going to continue doing this, making our rows, following our existing pattern until we have 13 flower units on either side. And I say that because your units are offset. So though I have 13 on this side, it looks like I have an extra unit on this side. But I have the exact same amount of flower units on either side. Now we need to finish this side of the bracelet. So as you're making your 13th flower on your last row, and this is to my left side, then we will make the other half of the row a little bit differently so that it matches this row here. And so the way we're going to end it is I have put on my last 13th flower unit on this side of the bracelet, and I am coming out of this inside bead after embellishing my flower. And then I am going to pick up, this time it's going to be a border bead, so I will pick up a crystal, because that will be to the outside of my bracelet, and then I will pick up a pearl, and I will go into the center pearl here. And then I will sew up around the entire unit, just like I've been doing all of my units, just sew around all of them. And now that I've sewn all the way around, I'm going to sew to this pearl here so that I can, let me get you closer, so that I can add the last part of my unit. And what I will do, get through this crystal here, down through this pearl. Now, I'm tangled, sorry. Now what I need to do is I'm coming through this pearl, I need to attach to this pearl here, back up just a little bit more maybe, and go into this pearl to finish my last unit. So now I have this bead and this bead in my unit. I need to pick up a border bead, which is always your crystal. And then, even though this is the top of the unit and it should be a border bead, to finish our diagonal, just like we did on this end, we're going to pick up a pearl instead of a crystal. So pick up a pearl and go down into this pearl right here. And now you have a nice diagonal finish with your pearls there. So all the way through, there's 3 pearls on the diagonal. On your very first row, there's 4. On your very last row, there's 4. So this is my first row, and there's 4. My very last row, there's 4. Everywhere else, there's 3. So now I have to secure this here. And where this is going to differ with the rustic diagonal pearl tutorial I did is we are not going to sew down the middle and put embellishments with the 11 O's. If you watched that one and did that one, we're not going to do it on this one. Though you see some of the threading in between, I'm just going to leave it open because as I found in my other tutorial, once I put an 11-0 seed bead down the middle, it kind of distorted my pretty pattern. It made it different. It still had a pretty pattern, but it was different than what I had originally envisioned. This is what I had originally envisioned, was more of a floral look, which is fine. The other one is pretty and it's all good. But now I want to make this one just a little bit different, a little bit more airy and open and feminine. So now I'm coming out of this crystal pearl right here, or this crystal right here. I have sewn through, make sure I've sewn through, yep, I've sewn through my entire unit and secured it twice. Coming out of this outside pearl here, I'm going to now pick up my galvanized aluminum silver 11-0 seed bead, and I'm going to put it right in the corner, right here. And then I'm going to grab some of my 8-0 seed beads and I'm going to start placing them between all of the beads on the border. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up an 8-0. I'm going to go into the next crystal. I'm coming out of this pearl right here. I'm going to go into this crystal and I'm going to drop an 8-0 seed bead in between these beads just to finish off the border and give some security and some actual form and structure to the bracelet. So now I'm going into the next bead, coming out of the crystal, going into the next pearl, putting an 8-0 seed bead between them. Let's see if you can see. Now when you get to the corners, you will want to put your 11-0 seed beads. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and put it right in the corner between the pearls here on the flowers. And then I'll just turn the corner and now I'll just work my way all the way to the end of the bracelet, putting in 8-0 seed beads between each bead. So I'm coming out of the pearl, I'm going to go into the crystal and I'm going to pull an 8-0 seed bead between the two, like so. So I'm just going to go all the way down the entire end, putting 8-0 seed beads in between all of the outside beads. So go ahead and do that. When we get to the end here, we'll be back. Okay, so I have put all of my 8-0 seed beads in this entire side, and now we're going to turn the corner. And I just want you to make sure as you're making this embellishment to make sure that there's not a lot of slack between your beads, but don't pull it really tight because your bracelet will start to curve. So just pull it just enough to where the 8-0 seed beads lay in there nicely, but not so tight that it distorts your bracelet. So kind of stretch it out before you turn the corner here, and then pick up an 11-0 seed bead and go from this crystal to this pearl with your 11-0. Now, just move your tail out of the way and go ahead and put your 8-0 seed beads in between the beads on the top here. So I'm going to pick up an 8-0. I'm going to go into this crystal and pull. And again. And I'm just going to move my tail aside. I'm going to leave it there. I want it to stay there, but I'm just kind of holding it back so that it's not in my way. And I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and I'm going to go from this pearl to this pearl here. Then we're going to turn the piece around, excuse me, and we're going to start working our way down this side with our 8-0. So we're coming out of this pearl, go into the next crystal, and just continue putting 8 of seed beads all the way down, just like you did before. When we get to the end here, we'll be back. Okay, so I have done all of my 8 of seed beads until I've come to this very last pearl here, and I am going to get you close, and I'm going to put in my last 8 from this pearl to this crystal. And I'm also, after I exit this crystal, going to come up through this 11 seed bead right here, and we are now going to start our clasping on this end. And then on this end we have reserved a tail, or you can go ahead and extend your tail on this side, and we will do this side for our clasping with the tail. So what we're going to do is we're coming through this 11 seed bead. You are now going to pick up 6 11 seed beads and an 8 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and an 8 like so. I'm going to drop this down, and then I'm going to pick up my clasp. I'm going to use my round side, and I'm going to go through my clasp, and then I'm going to go back down through just the 8 right here. And then I am going to go ahead and pick up 6 more 11 seed beads. And I'm going to come through this 11 seed bead here and pull it down. Make sure this is going to work out okay. Yeah, that's going to look okay. And make sure that you stretch before we get too far along. Make sure you stretch out your bracelet, that your last embellishment isn't pulled all funny, that your entire bracelet is nice and straight. So I'm just kind of stretching it out. And then I will pull this like so. Make sure I have the right amount of beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to go into this pearl right here. So let me get you close again. So I'm coming out of this 11 I'm going to go into this pearl. We're going to sew around this unit. So we're going to go into the next pearl, just the original beads, not any of the embellishment beads. And then up through here. Then we're going to sew all the way around so that we can sew up through this extension part that we just made again. And then we will put a middle support. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I want to go into this bead here. Down into this one here, right here. And then into the purple pearl here. This is so that we do not cross our path, our thread path funny, because you'll see it between the beads if you cross it funny. So you have to follow your original thread path. Now we're going to go up into this crystal right here, coming out of the pearl, and then into the 11 above it. If you can do it all at once, that's great. So I got a couple of them, which is fine. And then I'm going to sew through all of these 11 go up into the 8 and then into my clasp, pull, go down into the 8 again, so around the clasping, into the 8 down into the 11 here, and give a nice tug, go down into this 11 and the pearl behind it, right here. Now we're going to sew to this middle bead here, which is a crystal. So we're gonna have to go into this pearl here, then we're going to go up into this pearl here, and then into this crystal. Now, we're going to anchor to the 8-0 here so that we have a little bit of strength for the middle and balance. So we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, or excuse me, we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. Then we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. So this is what you should have: 15-0, 8-0, 11-0. Then we're going to go into the 8-0 seed bead straight up. Just go straight up. And I've also gone through my clasp. Now I'm going to go around my clasp into the 11-0 and the 8-0 seed bead right here, and pull my thread through. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead and then go into the other side of the crystal right here and pull this down and arrange it so that it's nice and neat, like so. And that's what that should look like, just like that. Now I'm going to sew back through this a couple times. So I'm just going to go up into this 15-0, up into this 8-0, into the 11-0 above that 8-0, into the 8-0 above that 11-0, and through, like so. Back off just a little bit. I'm finding it difficult to stay in camera. And then I'm going to go through the clasp, maybe, and then down back into this 8-0, this 11-0, the 8-0 underneath it, pull through, go into the 15-0 here, whoops, all tangled, and then I'm going to go back into the crystal on this side and pull this till it's nice and neat. Now, with my last one, it was a little bit straighter because I put an embellishment down the middle, which kind of held it a little stiffer. But this still is nice and neat. It's going to work out fine. So what we're going to do now is we're coming out of this crystal here. We're going to go down into the pearl, right next to it. Then we're going to go into this pearl here. Just avoid your 8-0. Then we're going to go into this pearl and the 8-0 and the next crystal. So I'm just sewing down the side here. And then I'm going to grab a thread bridge between the 8-0 and the crystal right here. And I am going to go through the loop that I just created, bring a knot down between those beads, and then sew down a few more just on the side here. And make another knot on the thread bridge. And then go down a few more beads. And then I'm just going to cut off my thread. And I will burn down my tail and tuck it in. So I'm just going to leave a little tag here of thread. And then I'm going to burn this down, like so. Now, this is what you should have. Let's get close so you can see what your clasping looks like. That's what that should look like. Get nice and neat here. Get it all boggled up. There we go. And that's really a very nice, pretty finish. And then we're going to now go to the other end of our bracelet, and if you have not extended your fire line, I already did mine, go ahead and extend it. Make sure you have, you know, at least a foot, something like that, of thread, and put your needle on the tail thread and we'll be back. Okay, so I have put my needle on my tail thread and I am knotted right here between these two beads. So what I need to do is I'm coming out of this pearl right on the top. I'm going to go into this 11-0 seed bead and I'm going to sew down a few beads on the side here, like so. Then I am going to grab the thread bridge right between this pearl and this 8-0 seed bead, and I am going to tie a knot. So I'm going to pull a loop and go through that loop, and then very tightly tighten that knot so that when I go back up through, I will be in the proper direction, but my knot will not move back up through the beads. So now I'm going to go into these beads right here, so all the way back up. Now into this pearl and into this 11-0 seed bead, and we are ready to put the clasping on this side exactly the way we put it on this side. So if you need to back up and watch this again, go ahead and do it again to do your other side. But it's exactly the same process. You're coming out in the proper direction, go ahead and put your clasping on, and then go ahead and sew down the side, make your knots, cut off your thread, burn down your extra piece of thread, and we'll be back. Okay, so I finished my clasping. This is what it looks like. Turned out really pretty. Get you a little closer so you can see. Nice. I'll show it to you off the arm too. And this is what it looks like. It turned out just the right length for me. It's probably right at 7 inches in length. And it's just right. Of course, you can make more units if you need a bigger bracelet. Or you can also use a bigger clasping. That would work too. Let me take this off. This toggle for this end for this particular toggle is a little bit big and it doesn't go through real smoothly, but there we go. That's just the way it was designed, and you know, I didn't design that, so I can't take the blame. Haha, just kidding. Anyway, that's what this looks like. Let's get close so you can see how pretty it is. I like the zigzaggy look. I like the fact that the crystal makes it a little bit more airy. And then we're going to look at the exact same design with different embellishments in different colors so you can see just how very different it looks. So with this one, this is what I originally had in my mind's eye that I wanted to make. But as I got going on this one, I did this and I did that, and it turned out quite a bit different. It's still pretty, and it's really pretty on, and it's very intricate looking. It's much prettier in person than it is on film or on video or even on pictures. This one actually is what I was going for. I kind of prefer a more lighter, airier, feminine look, which is fine. I also like a more rustic look at times. I like the turquoise and I really like bronze colors and things like that. But most of the time I kind of lean towards the more feminine, lighter, airier pastels and stuff like that. That's just my personal preference. I do use a lot of different colors, trying to get different looks for different people, because almost everybody, of course, likes a different color scheming. Of course, you can do whatever you would like. But hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial. It's a lot like this one, like I said, but I just wanted to show, I had this in my mind's eye and I just had to do it. So thanks for putting up with me, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Bye-bye.